But I like to see pockets getting hit hard, bro. Hard. Because somebody need to hold these players accountable for the stupidity they have been putting out.
To the locker room and tweets out white privilege in the middle of the game. Now, here's the kicker to me. A flagrant 2 has to be contact that can lead to an injury that looks excessive. DealDiJonai, it was about as excessive as possible. If there was any evidence of there being white privilege, this was not it. What the hell do y'all think?
Now, it states here, Reebok is reportedly dropping their endorsement for DealDiJonai Carrington after she attacked Sophie Cunningham. Let's go.
Something DJ Carrington actually had going for her this season now looks like it's about to disappear. And here's the tough part. Nobody pushed her into this. She did it to herself. This isn't a slow fade. You barely notice. It's happening right now live with cameras rolling and millions watching on their phones. And it all comes down to just a few choices she made on the court, all packed into one single week.
Here, Reebok is reportedly dropping their endorsement for DealDiJonai Carrington after she attacked Sophie Cunningham. Okay, and a bunch of people are saying this is true. You know, I don't know, but here it says, perfect. Good job, Reebok, for having a morals clause in her contract and enforcing it by pulling it. Carrington is a bully that the league apparently is protecting. Wake up, WNBA, before someone really gets hurt. You'll get sued because we Americans won't stand for this abuse. Do you agree with?
Now, here's a rumor that's really picking up steam. Reebok might be getting ready to walk away from Carrington completely. And the player rumored to take her spot. Not some unknown rookie. It's Sophie Cunningham. Yeah. The exact same player Carrington's been fouling all week like it's personal. If there's any truth to this, it's one of the craziest flips you'll see in sports business this year. Because just months ago, nobody on earth would have linked these two names to a shoe deal story, music, let alone put them on opposite sides of a controversy that could end up costing one of them real money.
That is going to be a flagrant 2. There is wind up, there is follow through, there's potential for injury. Without Sophie Cunningham in a vulnerable position in the air.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question.
WNBA player DealDiJonai Carrington of the Chicago Sky was ejected after a flagrant 2 foul on Sophie Cunningham in last night's WNBA game. As you saw from the video, Sophie was going for a fast break layup when DealDiJonai decided it would be a good idea to go after her head instead of the ball. So that obviously prompted the flagrant 2. The referees take a look at it, and she was ejected, and a lot of people are calling for her suspension after this.
Let's rewind and see how this actually started. Reebok brought Carrington on board hoping she'd become one of the main faces of their basketball line. Music, someone with real personality, someone fans would want to cheer for on the court and off it. That's really what an endorsement deal comes down to. Music, a brand isn't just paying for your shot. They're paying for the feeling people get when they see your name on a shoebox or in an ad before their favorite video plays. And lately, the feeling DJ Carrington's been giving people isn't warm at all. It's the total opposite. And brands pick up on that shift way faster than fans usually think.
Because of the timeline of everything and because of, if you want to call it the jealous nature, the legitimate hatred for somebody because of what they believe in and because of what they look like and because of how popular they are, I could say it's a targeted attack.
Yeah, oh, clearly. I mean, I think most people believe that.
But then on top of that, you know, it's not only white privilege she puts out there. She puts the next, in our next post, she puts the game date of the next time they're going to play the Fever.
Yep.
I mean, that's almost like, it feels to me like it's a threat.
In just 1 week, Carrington racked up 3 fouls that had people rewinding the clip just to double check what they'd actually seen. And we're not talking about hustle plays, music, not the normal rough stuff you expect in a physical league. These were the kind of hits that make analysts pause on live TV, almost searching for the right words before saying anything at all. And every single one of them was aimed at Sophie Cunningham. Music 3 times in 1 week isn't a coincidence anymore. That's a pattern.
DealDiJonai with another signature move yet again versus the Valks tonight.
And then she put both hands up.
Damn. Right. What is she doing with her left hand?
But that's
Look at her left hand.
DealDiJonai's
Let me just poke you in the eye real quick.
like she's swinging hard.
What is this goofball, uncoordinated individual doing, poking somebody in the eye with their hands up?
That's DealDiJonai.
Hands up. Dude, this is so bad. Hands up swipe for the ball with our right hand while poking the player in the eye with the left hand. You really can't make this stuff up. Hey,
here's the thing. Physical basketball isn't new at all. Nobody wants players going soft out there, and toughness has always been part of what makes this league fun to watch. But there's a real difference between playing tough and playing reckless. And a lot of people watching these clips felt Carrington cross that line more than once in just a few days. That's not one bad night you sleep off and forget about. That's a pattern. And patterns are exactly what a brand's marketing team watches closely when deciding who keeps wearing their logo on national TV.
Instead, DealDiJonai decided to post from the locker room on Threads saying white privilege. Cunningham herself admitted that she's been ejected for the exact same thing before and deserved it. But yet that card got played in seconds before the ejection even cooled off. Now, a sitting state attorney general just told an entire professional league that he will treat their hardest fouls as criminal assault. Florida doesn't even have a WNBA team. This is literally a warning, not a jurisdiction, people. You fucking clotheslined her. And I would be saying this about anybody, regardless of what the fuck they look like. Literally, right when the WNBA was really starting to be.
What if I told you one press conference could cost an athlete millions of dollars? Not a bad game, not a missed shot. One interview. That's exactly what's happening right now. And once you hear the full story, you'll understand why people can't stop talking about it. Started with a foul. A hard one. Music, the kind that makes you sit up on your couch and rewind just to double-check what you saw. DJ Carrington had already picked up 2 rough plays on Sophie Cunningham that week, and this one made it 3. Music, not hustle plays. Not the normal physical stuff you expect in a tough league. These were the kind of hits that make broadcasters go quiet for a second, searching for the right words before saying anything at all. Now, here's where it stopped being just a basketball story. Music. When reporters asked Carrington about the contact, she didn't just own it and move on the way most players do. She brought up the phrase white privilege while talking about Cunningham. And just like that, a conversation about a physical foul turned into a conversation about intent, motive, and everything heavy that comes with a phrase like that once it's said out loud in front of cameras. Whether you think the comment was fair, whether you think it had anything to do with what happened on the court, one thing is true. It flipped the entire story overnight and not in her favor. Her teammates tried to smooth things over publicly, saying their coach respects her, that she's a great defender, that the two of them are fine with each other, and it's really just outside noise trying to create a distraction. But outside noise doesn't usually come with 3 fouls and a viral comment attached to it. And through all of it, Cunningham hasn't said much at all. She hasn't fired back, hasn't gone on a rant, hasn't tried to win the internet argument. Music, she's just kept playing, kept showing up, and let her performance speak for her. The same way she's handled plenty of noise directed at her all season. That contrast is exactly why people online started asking a simple question. Why does one player get painted as difficult while the other gets praised for staying calm, even though she's the one absorbing every hit? Because that's really what this comes down to visually. One player getting hit and staying quiet. Music, one player throwing the hits and getting loud about it afterward. People notice which one of those looks better on camera, and brands notice it even faster than fans do. Social media absolutely did not stay quiet. Music, one post that blew up basically said, Reebok still has Carrington on their roster after she cheap shot Cunningham and then claimed white privilege. And that's not what a real athlete looks like. That's a liability, and the brand needs to drop her before customers drop them. That's not a gentle take. That's someone drawing a hard line and daring a company to pick a side. And judging by how many people agreed underneath it, that line struck a nerve. Old clips started resurfacing. Music screenshots from past controversies got dragged back up. All of it stitched together into one bigger case against her staying on the brand's roster at all. Headlines followed fast. Thousands of people were reportedly calling on Reebok to cut ties. Some were openly saying they'd stop buying the brand entirely as long as Carrington stayed attached to it. And that's the exact headline every marketing department dreads, because this isn't a one-day rant that disappears by the weekend. It's turning into an actual movement. When customers start threatening a boycott over one athlete's behavior, that's the moment a brand stops quietly discussing it internally and starts scrambling for an actual plan. Lost sales are a lot harder to explain in a quarterly earnings call than a bad foul is to explain the next morning on a highlight show. Carrington did eventually try to walk part of it back. She gave a softer statement. Music downplayed it as heated competition rather than anything personal. Tried to reframe the whole situation. On paper, that's usually the smart move. Own it, soften it, let your next good game do the talking. But this time, the walk back didn't land the way it normally would because it came after 3 fouls and 1 loaded comment, not after a single bad night people could shrug off in a day or 2. Once a pattern like that is already circulating in slow motion clips across every platform, one apology doesn't erase 3 separate incidents stacked in the same week. And that's really the core issue here, separate from who is right or wrong about any single play. Analysts who study these deals for a living keep coming back to one simple question brands always ask. Is this someone the average customer actually wants representing what they buy? Music, talent gets you the offer. Likability and public trust are what keep that deal alive. Once the cameras are rolling for reasons that have nothing to do with the highlight reel. Right now, that trust looks shaky. And shaky trust is exactly what pushes a brand to start quietly shopping for a replacement. Music, even while the current deal is technically still active on paper, which brings us to why Sophie Cunningham, specifically Music, is the name being floated. She already has her own signature shoe situation building with Adidas. Music, which would normally rule her out as a candidate for a Reebok deal since athletes don't usually juggle 2 competing shoe brands at once. But according to what's being reported, Reebok is apparently willing to get creative. Music structuring something that would let Cunningham keep her Adidas shoe while still bringing her into the Reebok family in some form. Almost like a peace offering to fans who've been pushing for change. That's an unusual move, and it tells you exactly how badly the brand wants to fix its image fast and publicly before more customers walk away for good. Just sit with how unusual that actually is. A company willing to share space with a rival shoe just to bring in an athlete who represents the opposite of everything currently causing them trouble. Music, that's not a small decision made casually. That's a brand admitting without ever putting it in an official statement that keeping their current athlete is doing more damage right now than losing a little exclusivity ever would. When a company starts bending its own rules just to win back customer trust, that usually means the real numbers behind closed doors are worse than anything they're willing to say publicly. And the timing could not be worse for Carrington. This wasn't just one small deal at risk. Endorsement contracts almost always have language built in for exactly this kind of situation. Clauses about conduct, about public image, about anything that could embarrass the brand attached to your name in a very public way. 3 rough fouls and 1 heated comment about a fellow player all inside a single week. That's precisely the stretch those clauses exist for. And it's not just Reebok watching this play out. Other brands pay close attention to stories like this too. Because nobody wants to be the next company explaining to angry customers why their athlete is still cashing checks after a week like this one. That kind of ripple effect can end up costing an athlete a lot more than just one contract. What makes it sting even more is that none of this had to happen the way it did. Fouls happen every single night in basketball. Music, and most of them are forgotten by the next morning without a second thought. If Carrington had picked up 1 hard foul and handled the aftermath calmly, none of this ever grows into a story big enough to threaten a shoe deal worth real money. Music, it's the combination that did it. 3 incidents back to back, a loaded comment dropped in at the worst possible moment, and a walk back that came a little too late to change a narrative that had already locked in online days earlier. Once fans decide someone isn't worth promoting anymore, one polite statement to reporters doesn't undo that. There's also a timing problem people aren't talking about enough. This all happened during a stretch of the season when cameras are on every single game, when highlight accounts are actively hunting for controversial moments to clip and repost within minutes. A questionable foul that might have quietly slipped by during a random midseason game in a half-empty arena instead got blasted across every platform almost instantly. Replayed from 6 different angles by 6 different accounts before the night was even over. That kind of visibility cuts both ways. It can turn one great moment into an overnight viral highlight, but it can just as easily turn one bad decision into a week-long news cycle that a brand simply cannot afford to have its name attached to anymore. Meanwhile, Cunningham keeps doing exactly what she's done all season, playing through the pressure.